All right, so get ready because today we're going to dive into the world of payments.
Oh, yeah.
But not the kind you're probably thinking about, like tapping your phone or your credit card.
Yeah.
This is going deeper. We're going to look at how businesses, especially like smaller businesses, figure out payments in those parts of the world where going digital isn't like a sure thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Not everyone's there yet.
Yeah, we're talking B2B payment solutions in these emerging markets.
Yeah.
Where offline transactions are like the everyday norm for a lot of people.
It's pretty fascinating when you think about it.
Yeah.
This isn't just about some tech thing. It's about like understanding people and money.
Right.
Like how do their habits, and the fact that internet connections can be spotty.
Yeah.
And even like the way an app is designed, how does all that stuff affect whether a business owner can actually succeed?
Totally.
And we've got a great article here by Joseph Solomon.
Right.
He's the founder of WDIR.
Sure.
It's a UX design consultancy that really gets these kinds of situations.
They focus on payment solutions for exactly these scenarios.
Yeah. And Solomon makes a great point right off the bat. He says that over 90% of transactions for small and medium businesses in some of these markets are still done in cash.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not just because people are used to it. There's a whole bunch of reasons why.
Yeah, it's a whole complex web of things going on there.
Okay, so let's try to untangle that web. I mean, I get that internet access isn't great in a lot of places.
Right.
But what else is keeping cash like the main thing?
Well, limited connectivity is definitely a huge factor. I mean, think about it. We're talking about places where like 28% of sub-Saharan Africa and 68% of Latin America
That's a lot.
don't have reliable internet access.
Yeah.
But then you have the whole trust factor too. Cash is something you can hold.
Yeah.
It's familiar. For a lot of people, it means stability in a way that digital transactions haven't quite earned yet.
It really makes you think about all the things we take for granted.
Totally.
Like being able to send money instantly or shop online. It's easy to forget that not everyone has that.
Right.
But even if people are really used to cash, isn't moving towards digital kind of inevitable?
It probably is. But pushing for it too quickly could actually cause problems.
How so?
Well, imagine you're a small business owner in a rural area.
Okay.
Cash is easy to get. Everyone accepts it. And most importantly, you don't need any technology that you might not have or trust. So if you try to force a digital-only approach, you could accidentally shut those people out from the very systems that are supposed to help them.
That's a really good point. So how do you find that balance between moving forward but also dealing with the reality of the situation?
Yeah.
The article mentions Brazil's PIX system as like a good example. Is that what you're thinking of?
PIX is really interesting because it doesn't try to get rid of cash.
Okay.
It actually includes it. They have these cash out points, like little kiosks or shops where people can easily switch between cash and digital money.
Interesting.
That kind of bridge building can help people trust the system and make the change less scary.
So it's not about forcing change, but giving people options that fit with how they already do things.
Exactly.
This brings us to what I think is the most interesting part. How do you actually design these payment systems?
Yeah.
For a world where being offline is like the normal thing.
This is where UX design gets really exciting. You have to rethink everything.
Okay.
You can't assume that people will always have a good internet connection.
Right.
One of the key strategies Solomon talks about is local data storage with deferred syncing.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that actually look like?
So imagine you're in the middle of making a payment and the internet cuts out.
Oh, no.
With the system, the app saves all the important information on your device.
Okay.
Then later, when you have a connection again, it automatically syncs up with the network.
So you don't lose anything.
Exactly. It gives people peace of mind. They know their payment is safe even if the internet is acting up.
It's like a safety net.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about whether your money went through or not.
Right.
The article mentioned Kenya's M-Pesa uses this, right?
That's right. M-Pesa's success in areas with spotty internet is partly because of this focus on resilience. Transactions aren't dependent on perfect conditions.
Yeah.
They adapt to the situation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got offline functionality.
Right.
And what was the other one?
No, another really important design strategy is creating minimalist interfaces.
Okay.
That use very little bandwidth.
So basically getting rid of all the fancy stuff. Why is that so important?
Well, a lot of businesses in these markets are using older phones or have limited data plans.
Right.
If your app is too complicated or uses too much data, it just won't work.
Makes sense.
It's about making things clear and functional.
Yeah.
Rather than having fancy visuals.
It's like going back to the basics.
Yeah.
Simple icons, clear labels, minimal data usage. And Ghana's eSwitch card is a good example of this in action, right?
It is. It's a prepaid smart card with a super simple interface designed to work even on basic devices.
Cool.
This accessibility is really important when we talk about financial inclusion.
Yeah.
You can't leave anyone behind.
Okay, so we've covered offline functionality and streamlined design.
Right.
What other UX strategies are key in this world where being offline is the norm?
Well, you can't ignore cash. Even with digital solutions, cash out options and agent networks are super important. You can't just assume that everyone's ready or able to go completely cashless right away.
So it's about building those connections
Yeah.
between the digital and the physical worlds like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Partnering with local businesses to create cash out points, like Mexico's OXXO network does, is a great example.
Okay.
It lets users seamlessly move between cash and digital whenever they need to.
Yeah.
It's all about meeting people where they are, not making them adjust to a system that might not work for them yet.
This is making me rethink some of my assumptions about how technology spreads around the world.
Yeah.
It's not just about creating a cool app. It's about understanding the whole environment it has to work in.
It really is. And a big part of that is trust. So another important strategy is giving clear and immediate feedback on transactions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're not always connected, that uncertainty can be really unsettling.
For sure.
Like, did my payment go through?
Right.
Is the system even working?
Yeah.
Those are big questions.
Exactly. In these situations, not having that confirmation can be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
You need things like visual cues, audio confirmations,
Uh-huh.
anything to reassure the user that their action was registered, even if it hasn't synced online yet.
It's like you have to build that reassurance into the design itself.
Yeah.
Speaking of reassurance, what about power consumption?
Oh, yeah.
I bet battery life is a big deal in places where electricity isn't reliable.
Absolutely. This is where optimization is key. You need apps that are really efficient
Yeah.
and minimize battery drain.
Uh-huh.
Everything from reducing background activity to even offering an offline mode for the most important functions
Wow.
can make a huge difference.
It's amazing how many different things you have to think about when you're designing for these environments.
It really does challenge your assumptions about how technology should work.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about localization yet.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
We've talked about the tech side,
Right.
but how does localization fit into all of this?
Think of it this way. You could have the most technically amazing payment app in the world.
Okay.
But if it doesn't feel familiar and accessible to the people using it,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. That's where localization comes in.
So it's about more than just translating the language.
Way more. It's about understanding local customs, incorporating familiar currency options,
Right.
even using words and phrases that are common in the local context.
Okay.
It's about making users feel understood and respected, which ultimately builds trust and encourages people to use the app.
This is fascinating. I'm already starting to see how these design strategies aren't just about payments.
Right.
They could apply to so many other industries.
You're absolutely right. The principles we're talking about apply to any technology that's trying to bridge the digital divide.
Yeah.
And that human element that focus on localization and trust building, that's universal.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
Yeah.
We've gone from the basics of cash-based economies to the details of UX design, and it's clear we've only just scratched the surface.
There's definitely more to explore,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to that human touch and the role of local agents in building trust.
Can't wait to get into that. But for now, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
What other industries could benefit from this offline-first design thinking?
That's a good one.
And what assumptions do we make about technology that might not be true for everyone?
Something to think about.
We'll be back soon to explore those very questions. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. We were just talking about how important localization is when you're designing payment solutions for these markets.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to learn more about that. It sounds like
Yeah.
it's more than just translating the app, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's about understanding how people actually use money in their everyday lives.
Absolutely. We're talking about cultural sensitivities, local customs, and really understanding how important cash is in these communities.
So how do you design for that kind of situation?
Right.
What are some examples of localization in action?
One of the most effective strategies is using local agents as part of the system.
Okay.
Solomon highlights these agents as like trusted go-betweens, almost like guides, helping users bridge the gap between digital payments and the more traditional ways of doing business.
It's like having a human connection within a digital system.
Exactly. These agents can offer support with using the app, help troubleshoot any problems, and even educate people about the benefits of digital payments.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in communities where people might not be as familiar with technology.
Right. Having someone you trust to walk you through the process can make a big difference.
It definitely builds confidence in a way that just using an app might not.
For sure. And there's a great example of this in the article. It talks about how Nigerian fintech MoneyPoint uses a network of local agents.
Okay.
They call them relationship managers.
I like that.
These individuals are key to building trust within communities. They're familiar faces who can help people navigate this new financial world.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
No.
It's about the human relationships that are built around it.
Exactly. It's something that's often forgotten in the rush to digitize everything.
Yeah.
We need to remember that technology works best when it supports and improves human interaction, not replaces it completely.
That's a really important point. It's about creating a system that feels helpful and approachable, not intimidating or isolating.
Exactly. And when you get those things right, you end up with a payment solution that's not just functional,
Right.
but actually empowers the people using it.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening.
Yeah.
I feel like I knew so little about this world before.
There's a lot to take in, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many things you have to consider when you're designing for these environments.
It really is a completely different way of thinking. You can't just take a solution that works in a developed market and expect it to work the same way in a place with different infrastructure, different needs, and a different cultural context.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to challenge your assumptions and really put the user experience first in the design process.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that innovation can happen anywhere.
Totally.
And sometimes the most groundbreaking solutions come from tackling the most unique challenges.
That's what makes this field so interesting and impactful.
Yeah.
It's about using technology to create a fairer and more accessible financial system for everyone, no matter where they live or how they do business.
It's not just about making money.
No.
It's about making a real difference in people's lives.
Exactly. It's about financial inclusion and creating opportunities where there weren't any before.
Couldn't agree more. It's about empowering people and communities through technology,
Yeah.
not leaving anyone behind.
That's the goal.
So we've covered a lot today, from the realities of emerging markets and why it's important to include cash, to the design strategies that make these payment solutions really work.
Right.
But one thing that really stood out to me from the article was Solomon's emphasis on resilience.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
Can we talk more about what he means by that?
Sure. Resilience is about building systems that can handle disruptions.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about things like network outages or power cuts,
Right.
but also unexpected changes in user behavior or economic conditions.
So it's about anticipating those challenges and making the system flexible from the beginning.
Exactly. In these environments where things might not be as reliable, you can't count on everything working perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
You have to design for adaptability.
And I imagine that goes beyond just the technology itself. It's about giving users the power to be resilient too.
Absolutely. You want to create a system where users feel confident troubleshooting problems, adapting to changes, and ultimately taking control of their own financial well-being.
That's really powerful. It's not about making people dependent on the system.
No.
It's about helping them become self-sufficient.
It's about giving people the tools and the knowledge to handle whatever comes their way,
Right.
even when things are unpredictable.
That's what's so exciting about this design thinking. It's not just about fixing a problem. It's about creating a foundation for sustainable growth and development.
Exactly. And the impact can go way beyond individual businesses.
Yeah.
When you empower individuals, you empower whole communities.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how complex and how full of possibilities designing for these unique contexts can be.
Me too. It's a reminder that there are so many different ways to think about technology and its role in the world.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most innovative solutions come from challenging our assumptions about what's possible.
But we're not done yet.
Oh, right.
Solomon ends his article with a really interesting question.
Okay, what is it?
He asks, what other industries or challenges could benefit from this offline-first approach?
That's a great question. It makes us think outside our own experiences and examine the assumptions we make about technology access and how it shapes our world.
Yeah.
What if we applied the same kind of thinking to healthcare, education, or even government services?
The possibilities are endless.
They really are.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding one specific issue.
Right.
It's about sparking new ideas and inspiring new ways to approach challenges.
It's about recognizing that the pursuit of inclusive design is a journey, not a destination. And it requires constant questioning, exploration, and a willingness to challenge the way things are.
Well said. We've still got some interesting points to cover,
Yeah.
especially about the assumptions we make about technology and its role in society.
Let's dig into that right after this. We'll be back in a moment.
It's funny when you think about it. We talk about these emerging markets like they're a million miles away.
Yeah.
But even in developed countries,
Right.
there are people facing similar challenges.
Oh, absolutely. We often assume that everyone has access to technology, but that's just not true.
Yeah.
Even in places with great internet, you have rural areas, lower income communities.
Right.
Even individuals who, for different reasons, might not be comfortable with digital tools.
It's true. The digital divide isn't just about geography.
Right.
It affects people across all kinds of demographics and socioeconomic lines.
Yeah.
This whole conversation has really made me think about the importance of empathy in design.
Yeah.
You have to understand the needs and limitations of your users, even if those are totally different from your own.
It's about putting yourself in their shoes and asking, what would it be like to use this product in this situation?
Right.
What problems might I run into?
Yeah.
How can we design something that really works for me?
And sometimes that means keeping things simple.
Right.
Getting rid of all the unnecessary extras and just focusing on what people really need.
It's about prioritizing simplicity, reliability, accessibility over fancy features that might look good in ads but don't actually solve real problems.
That's a good lesson for any designer, no matter what industry they're in or who they're designing for.
Yeah,
Good design is about solving problems and making people's lives better.
absolutely.
And when you can do that in a way that's both innovative and inclusive,
Right.
that's when you've got something really special.
That's the sweet spot.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how design can make a positive impact on the world.
Me too. It's been a great conversation, and I hope it's made our listeners think differently about technology and how it affects their lives and the world around them.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
As you go about your day, pay attention to how technology is being used or not being used around you.
Yeah.
Challenge your assumptions. Ask questions.
Mm.
And never stop looking for ways to make technology more inclusive, more accessible, and more empowering for everyone.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep challenging the status quo.